Good morning, class. This is a recorded version, but your attendance is being checked now. If you have any questions, just send a message through Canvas. I will answer it later. Now, let's start with the cornerstone exercise number 1, cycle time and velocity. So given with the following data for one of the production departments of Norton Company, theoretical velocity 300 units per hour, productive minutes available per year 10 million, annual conversion cost 60 million dollars, actual velocity 160 units per hour. Requirement 1, calculate the actual conversion cost per unit using actual cycle time and the standard cost per minute. So we have now the actual cycle time is equal to 60 minutes divided by 160 units. It's 0.375 minute per unit. Standard cost per minute is $60 million divided by 10 million. We have now $6 per minute. Conversion cost per unit is $6 multiplied by 0.375. So the per unit conversion cost is $2.25 per unit. Requirement number 2, calculate the ideal conversion cost per unit using theoretical cycle time and the standard cost per minute. What incentive exists for managers when cycle time costing is used? So we have now the theoretical cycle time is 60 minutes divided by 300 units. It's 0.2 minute per unit. Conversion cost per unit is $6 multiplied by 0.2. It's $1.20 per unit. The incentive is to reduce cycle time because it reduces the cost per unit. So you have to reduce the cycle time. Now this time, we have the per unit computations for the conversion cost. Now in number 3 requirement, what if the actual velocity is 220 units per hour? What is conversion cost per unit? What effect will this improvement have on delivery performance? So the actual cycle time is 60 minutes divided by 220 units is 0.27 cents, 0.27 minutes. So we have now conversion cost per unit is $6 multiplied by 0.27 is $1.62 per unit. The company should be able to deliver orders more quickly and performance should improve. Now we have number 2, we have the MCE. So for requirement number 1, calculate MCE. Comment on its significance. So comment on its significance. Then number 2, what is the theoretical cycle time? Calculate MCE using actual and theoretical cycle times. 3, what if waste is reduced by 40%? What is the new MCE, new cycle time? So we have now requirement number 1. We now get the requirement here for MCE, and we have now the process time is 60 minutes minus 20 minutes minus 18 minutes minus 12 minutes. So the remainder is only 10 minutes. So we have now, we deduct the move time of 20 minutes, inspection time of 18 minutes, 12 minutes now is the rework time. Now, these activities are considered to be non-value added. And so we have now the MCE, or we have now the manufacturing cycle time is equal to process time divided by process time plus move time plus inspection time plus rework time. And so we have 10 now, the process time divided by 10 process time added to the move time. So we have 0.30 inspection time is here at 0.18. So, or 0.20. 20. So the press time, so we have to determine the MCE press time of 10 minutes. We divide this by the total of the press time plus the move time plus the inspection time plus the rework time. So the total MCE, or the manufacturing cycle time, is 0.17. Now with the solutions. So we have now the requirement for number 1 is to determine the MCE, and a value of 0.17 indicates that 83% of the manufacturing cycle is attributable to waste. So it's only 17 being the MCE. Then for requirement number 2, what is the theoretical cycle time? Calculate the MCE using the actual and theoretical cycle time. So we now add the new ways. So we have now for requirement number 2 for the theoretical cycle time and compute for the MCE using actual and theoretical cycle time. So for number 2, the theoretical cycle time is 10 minutes divided by 100 units. So it's 0.10 per minute. Actual cycle time is 60 minutes divided by 100 units equals 0.60, includes theoretical cycle time. And so we have 10 minutes divided by 100 units is 10 minutes. So we have 10.10 minutes. Actual cycle time is 60 minutes divided by 100 units equals 0.6, includes theoretical time plus the waste. So, depende. You have here 0.60, including theoretical cycle time plus the waste. So, the MC now is theoretical cycle time divided by the actual cycle time. So, here for number 3, we now compute for the waste is reduced by 40%. Now, what is the new MCE and the new cycle time? So, the new waste is 0.60. We are going to multiply 0.60 by the total of 0.60. So we have now the new waste is 0.60 times 20 minutes added to 18 minutes plus 12 minutes. So we get the total for the new waste. So 30 minutes MCA is, okay, So that's for the new waste. Now we go to cornerstone 3, strategy map. Harmon Company Community Hospital developed the following series of if-then statements for its balanced scorecard strategy. Now, you are required to prepare a strategy map for Harmon strategy as described by the series of cause-and-effect relationship. Explain how performance measure can act as both long and okay. So we now go to requirement 1 for the strategy map. Prepare a strategy map for Harmon strategy as indicated by the here. So for 9-3, which is now the requirement is strategy map for a strategy as described by the series of cases. So for the strategy map here, we have now the what if profits did not increase to the targeted level for strategy map. And for the strategy map, we have the financial. So decrease profits or increase profits, and so increase revenue and increase market share. We now have the so we have now the financial decreases cost, increases profits, and now with increase in revenues, that will increase the market share and increase patient satisfaction, considering that this is a hospital, and increase product quality, increase employee satisfaction. Now for decreasing, we now have a process, increase in inventory and increase in product quality. So we have now increase in employee satisfaction, will increase product quality with learning and growth, and we have quality. So learning and growth, decrease turnover, and increase employee satisfaction. And requirement to explain how a performance measure can act as both a lag variable and a lead variable. Consider the objective of increasing product quality. Increased product quality is an outcome or a lag measure for the objective of increasing employee satisfaction. However, it also acts as a performance driver, so a lead variable for the objective of increasing care patient satisfaction. And in number 3, what if profits did not increase to the targeted level? Explain how this result could be attributable to either an implementation problem or an invalid strategy. What actions would likely be taken for each case? So assuming that the strategy is valid, increasing the targeted profit is dependent on achieving the targeted values of all the preceding lead variables. If, for example, the product quality was not increased, then the targeted improvement in patient satisfaction may not occur. This, in turn, would ripple through the series and may explain why the targeted profits were not achieved. In this case, ensuring the planned action are actually implemented is the solution. If, on the other hand, the product quality was increased and the targeted profits not achieved, then there is a problem with the strategy. Now we go to 13, that's 4, activity-based responsibility accounting versus strategic-based responsibility accounting. The following comment was made by the CEO of a company that recently implemented the balance scorecard. Responsibility and a strategic-based performance management system differs in the three Ds: direction, dimension, and diffusion. Explain how this comment describes differences and responsibility between an active base and a strategic cost base. Oh, here for number 4, and the strategic-based performance management system. Now, strategic-based system adds direction to improvement efforts by trying responsibility to a firm's strategy. It increases the dimensions of responsibility by adding at least two dimensions: the customer perspective and the learning and growth perspective. Finally, it diffuses responsibility for the strategy throughout the entire organization. Now we go to problem 9-5 is still activity-based responsibility accounting versus strategic-based responsibility accounting. A balanced scorecard expresses the complete story of a company's strategy through an integrated set of financial and non-financial differences and measures that are both predictive and historical, and that may be measured subjectively or objectively. So we have now the financial and non-financial measures that are both predictive and okay. So we have now for requirement number 1, using the above statement about the scorecard measures, explain how scorecard measurement differs from that of activity-based management. So the requirement now is, okay, so explain what is meant by historical and predictive measures. Why are both open important to describing a company's strategy? So we have now for 9-5, we have 13-5 here. Scorecard measures differ because they're integrated. Strategy crisis is the basis for integration. This means that they are derived from support and describe the strategy of an organization. They are used to express the cause and effect relationships that define a well thought out strategy. Scorecard measures also differ because they are developed for more than just the process and financial perspective. For that, finally, it diffuses responsibility for the strategy through the entire organization. Now, in problem number 5, here, we are now given the scorecard. Measures differ because they are integrated. Strategy is the basis for integration. This means they are derived from support and describe the strategy of an organization. They are used to express the cause and effect relationship of an organization. So we have now finally it diffuses responsibility, no, for that. And in the case of number two requirement for problem 13.5, a historical measure is a log measure. It measures an outcome, something that has already happened. A predictive measure is a lead measure. It derives performance measure. So again, a historical measure is a log measure. Okay, so we have now 13-6 or 9-6, activity-based responsibility accounting versus strategic-based responsibility accounting. The balanced scorecard is an approach that has the objective of driving change. Performance evaluation is an integral part of this effort. Performance relation that we have now in number 6. Performance evaluation within the balanced scorecard framework is also concerned with the effectiveness of and the viability of an organization. So in 9.6, describe how the balanced scorecard where describe how the balanced scorecard is used to drive organizational change and explain how performance evaluation is used to assess the effectiveness and viability of an organization's strategy. Now, in the case of 13-6, we describe the balanced scorecard and at least its use. 13-6, okay. 13-6, number 1, change is brought about by establishing stretch targets that are set of levels, which at the bottom for this, no? So we can say that change is brought about by establishing stretch targets that are set at levels which, if achieved, will transform the organization. These targets are set for all okay. So stretch targets are feasible because the measures are linked by causal relationships. Furthermore, because the measures uh, here, the linkages, okay, so we have to double loop feedback. So double loop feedback, that's now in explain how performance evaluation is used to assess the effectiveness and viability of an organization strategy. Double loop feedback is the means by which strategy, effectiveness, and viability are tested. A strategy can be expressed as a series of if-then statements. Okay, so we now have your double loop feedback. Oh, so we have double loop feedback is the means by which strategy, effectiveness, and viability are tested. Strategy can be expressed. Okay, so we have now strategy can be expressed as a series of if-then statements based on causal relationship. If the outcome occurs as predicted, then we have to consider that strategy can be expressed as a series of if then statements or viability. Why ginipit nila? So we have now stretch targets, no, considered to be feasible. If the outcome is different than predicted, then either the strategy was not implemented as planned or it is not viable. If the lead measures do not achieve their planned values, then the problem is one of effectiveness. If the lead measures are at their planned values or better, and okay, so we have now the lead measures are at their planned values or better, and the outcomes do not materialize, then the viability of the strategy can be questioned. Now we go to the next problem. Balanced scorecard perspectives, classification of performance measures. Consider the following list of scorecard measures: product profitability, ratings of customers, number of patents pending, number of patients. All right, so 7. What's the requirement here? Consider the following list of scorecard measures. So product profitability, and we have just considered product profitability, no, for classify each measure according to the following perspective: financial or non-financial, subjective or objective, and external or internal. When the perspective is considered to be, so what are we going to do in the case that we will meet the problem and this quite long? Okay, so in number 7, we are going to classify these activities or the scored board measures, whether as to whether, no. So financial is financial and objective. So again, it's external. While in the case of letter B, ratings from customer. Oh, so we now go to our answers would be external, internal. In letter A, product profitability. So how do we consider product profitability? It's financial, objective, and external. For product profitability, or this is now using activity-based costing. Now in letter B, ratings from, so we have now in problem. So we have now your And letter C, number of patents pending. So letter C is process, then innovation, non-financial, and objective. So take note, some belong to the old activities. So in letter C, number of patents pending. So it's process, innovation, non-financial, objective, and internal. Letter D, strategic job coverage ratio for letter D. It's learning and growth, non-financial, objective, and internal. In letter E, revenue per employee. We have now the revenue per employee, learning and growth, financial, objective, and internal. Then we have now letter F, quality cost. In quality cost, it's a process for operations, financial, objective, and internal. Then letter G, percentage of market. It's customer related, non-financial, in for letter G, percentage of market. So it's customer, non-financial, objective, and external. Then letter H, employee turnover percentages, still learning and growth, non-financial, objective, and internal. Then for letter I, first pass yields. So letter I is process and its operations. And I consider here in letter I, no? The first pass yield. So letter I, process, operations, non-financial, objective, but internal. Next, letter J, one-time delivery, on-time delivery percentage. So we have customer related, non-financial, objective, and external. For letter K, percentage of revenues from her new sources. From new sources. So we now get to letter K, process, innovation, financial, objective, and external. So for 13-17. Now for the next 9-8, cycle time and next we go to 9-8, cycle time and conversion cost per unit. For the following requirements, compute the theoretical conversion cost per unit. And the company produces multiple machine parts. The theoretical cycle time for one of its products, 65 minutes per unit. The budgeted conversion cost for the manufacturing cell dedicated to the product are 12,960,000 per year. The total labor minutes available are 1,440,000. During the year, the cell was able to produce 0.6 units. And suppose also that production incentives exist to maximize production. So we have production incentives exist to minimize unit product cost. So we have now to compute the theoretical conversion cost per unit in from in exercise number 8, theoretical rate is 12,960,000 divided by 1,440. That's now your labor minutes available. And we have now $9 per minute. Theoretical conversion cost per unit is $9 times 65. That's 65 minutes per unit. So we get 585. Then the applied conversion cost per unit is 9 multiplied by 100. So it's 900. Note 60 over 6 equals 100 minutes used. Okay, so we have now in requirement number 1, computing for the theoretical rate and the conversion cost per unit. Requirement number 2, for this problem, compute the applied conversion cost per minute, the amount of conversion cost actually assigned to the product. So for number 2, applied conversion cost per unit is $9 times given 100. So we have 900. So 60 divided by 6, 0.6, that's 100 minutes used per unit. And requirement number 3, an incentive exists to produce product cost by reducing cycle time. For example, current cycle time. So applied conversion cost, no? 100 minutes used. Requirement 3, discuss how this approach to assigning conversion cost can improve delivery time performance. Explain how conversion cost acts as a performance driver for on-time deliveries. So for number 3, an incentive exists to reduce product cost by reducing cycle time. For example, current cycle time is 100 minutes per unit. If cycle time could be reduced to 75 minutes per unit, conversion cost would be reduced from 900 to 75 minutes, or you have now your conversion cost. And again, conversion cost being the sum of direct labor and factory overhead. So in number 3, an incentive exists to reduce product cost by reducing cycle time. For example, an incentive, current cycle time is 100 minutes per unit. If cycle time could be reduced to 175 minutes, conversion cost would be reduced from see. So we have now reducing cycle time increases the ability to meet deliveries once reduced. So we have now for 9-9 cycle time and velocity, cycle time and velocity. Requirement number 1, compute the theoretical and actual velocities per hour. And we have the, so we have now compute the theoretical and actual velocities per hour and the theoretical and actual cycle time, minutes per unit produced. So for requirement number 1, velocity theoretical 243,000 laptops, and we divide it by 20, 60,750. Okay, so the actual velocity per hour and the theoretical and actual cycle time minutes per unit produced. Velocity theoretical is 4 laptops per hour. The actual is 91,160. 4 equal 2 divided by 60,750. So you get 975, no? Or we have velocity actual 91,125 divided by 60,750. That's 1.5 laptops per hour. So the cycle time theoretical is 60 minutes divided by 4 laptops. So they need 40 minutes for that per laptop. And the conversion cost rate is 7,290,000. And the conversion rate is 7,290,000. You divide by 60,750 times 60. So it's $2 per minute. And 2 times 15 minutes, we get 30. Or we have to divide 7,290,000 divided by, so we now get the result of 7,290,000 divided by 60,750 times 10. That will be $2 per minute. And in number 3, we have calculate MCE. How does MCE relate to the conversion cost per laptop? So we have now the MCE is process time divided by process. So we have now in number 9, computing finally for the MCE, process time divided by process time added to wait time and move time plus rework time, which are non-value added. 15,000 15,000 in number 10. We are now required to express an improvement strategy as a series of if-then statements regarding will reduce the conversion cost per laptop. So for 13, that's 10. We have cycle time and velocity. And so using the data of problem 9. So for 1310, here, we are going to use the previous problem, that's number 9, before we compute for the answers in number 10. Since we have, okay, so in 1310, if the plant layout is improved, then wait time and move time will decrease. If wait time and move time decrease, then MCE will increase. If MCE increases, then conversion cost per unit will decrease. In number 2, MCE of 75% implies the following ratio: 15/20, which implies that move time and wait time have been reduced to 0, leaving rework time of 5 minutes as the source of inefficiency. The expected conversion cost per per unit. Now that will be so we have now the expected conversion cost per unit now is $2 times 20 minutes. So meaning it will be 40. And this strategy can be tested by executing the performance drivers and seeing if the log variables achieve the predictive values. For example, if the company redesigns the plant layout, do move time and wait time reduce to 0? If yes, then does the applied conversion cost drop to 40? If yes, then evidence exists supporting the viability of the strategy. Now we go to number 11, balance scorecard, lead and lag variables, double loop feedback. So balance scorecard for number 11, balance scorecard, but the following if then statements were taken from so identify the lead and the lag variables and explain your reasoning in number or requirement number 1. The following if then statements were taken from a balance scorecard. A, B, C, and D. A, if employee capabilities increase, then process time decreases. If process time decreases, then customer retention will increase. If customer retention increases, then market share will increase. If a market share per market, no? So if market share increases, then revenues will increase. So identify the lead and the lag variables in problem 911. Lead indicators make things happen. They are the things that enable outcome. Okay, they are that enable the outcome measures to be achieved. Some measures may act as both lead and lag indicators. This exercise illustrates and emphasizes that it's very difficult to classify measures as lead or lag without expressing the underlying strategy as series of if-then statements. If A, then B. If B, then C helps identify the lag. And we have, okay. So we have now the lead indicators, make things happen. They are the things that enable outcome measures to be achieved. Some measures may act as both lead and lag indicators. This exercise illustrates and emphasizes that it's very difficult to classify measures as lead or lag without expressing the underlying strategy as series of if-then statements. If A then B, if B then C helps identify the lead and lag roles of without expressing the underlying strategy as series of if-then statements. If A then B, if B then C helps identify the lead and the lag roles of measures. When a measure is associated with a premise, it functions as a lead measure. If a measure is associated with a consequence, it acts as a lag variable. If A lead, then B lag. If B lead, then C lag. Thus, we have the following. Employee capabilities such as hours of training That's a lead indicator. Plus time or cycle time, they are considered as lag, no? Employee capabilities, hours of training, lead indicator, plus time or cycle time. Okay, so we have now employee capabilities as hours of training, lead indicator, press time, cycle time, lag as a consequence, and lead as a premise. Then we have customer retention, lag as a consequence, and lead as a premise. Market share, lag as a consequence, and lead as a premise. And revenues are lag indicators. Now, it is interesting to note that learning and growth indicators come at the beginning of the strategy map, and that indicators from the financial perspective come at the end of the map. Thus, learning and growth tend to act primarily as lead indicators, and financial perspective indicators tend to act primarily as lag indicators. This says that changing the financial outcomes is rooted in performance indicators coming from the learning and growth process and customer perspectives. Then for using the first if-then statement, explain the concept of double loop feedback. Double loop feedback provides information about both effectiveness and viability. If employee capabilities do not improve, then it could be due to one of two reasons. The targeted value for employee capabilities, such as number of targeted training hours, was not achieved. So the strategy was not implemented according to plan. Thus, even though the hypothesized relationship may be correct, the outcome wasn't realized because the levels planned for the performance driver were not achieved. The planned level of employee uh, employee, no? So if employee capabilities do not improve, then it could be due to one of two reasons. The targeted value for employee capabilities, such as number of targeted training hours, was not achieved. So the strategy was not implemented according to plan. Thus, even though the hypothesized relationship may be correct, the outcome wasn't realized because the levels planned for the performance driver, which was not achieved. So the strategy was not implemented according to plan. Thus, even though the hypothesized relationship what may be correct, the outcome wasn't realized because the levels planned for the performance driver were not achieved. The planned level for employee capabilities. Okay, so we now go to the next problem is number 12, testable strategy or strategy map. Consider the following quality improvement strategy as expressed by a series of if-then statements. If real-time feedback information capabilities improve, then post-sales service time will improve. If post-sales service time improves, then both okay. So if post-sale service time improves, then post-sale service quality will increase. If post-sale uh, service quality increases, then customer satisfaction will increase. Now, in number 12, if customer satisfaction increases, then market share will increase. If market share increases, then sales will increase. If sales increase, then profits will increase. Prepare strategy map that shows the cause and effect relationship of times volume. So we have now the quality improvements. So we have now to prepare a strategy map that cause and effect relationships are being emphasized. Okay. So for the strategy map, financial, customer, process, and learning and growth. So real-time feedback improves, service time improves, market share. So we have increased sales that will increase profit. So we have now increased real-time feedback improves, service time improves, increase market share, increase sales that will increase profit. Increase customer satisfaction will increase market share, and service time improves, service quality improves. Requirement number 2, explain how the quality improvement strategy can be tested. Then the strategy is testable because each if-then sequence is essentially a hypothesis about the relationships between lead and lag variables. So if the lead variable achieves strategy is feasible because each if-then sequence is essentially a hypothesis about the relationship between lead and lag variables. If the lead variables achieve, if not, then the strategy as envisioned may not be viable, and adjustments this strategy is feasible because each of if-then sequence is essentially a hypothesis about the relationship between lead and lag variables. If the lead variables achieve their planned levels, then the lag variable should at least produce the expected outcomes. Now the here for if not, the strategy as envisioned may not be viable and adjustments will need to be made. Now we have problem 13 for the balance scorecard, strategy, translation, strategy map, double loop feedback. The company, an electronics firm, buys circuit boards and manually inserts various electronic devices into the printed circuit board. Bannister sells its products to original equipment manufacturers. Profits for the last we have now the company, an electronics firm, buys circuit boards and manually inserts various electronic devices into the printed circuit board. Bannister sells its product to original equipment manufacturers. Profits for the last 2 years have been less than expected. Mandy Confer, owner of Bannister, was convinced that her firm needed to adapt revenue growth and the cost reduction. In here, profits as given. After careful review of her firm's condition, Mandy realized that the main obstacle for increasing revenue and reducing cost was the high defect rate. Okay, so we have since she was certain that revenues would grow if the defect rate was reduced dramatically, costs would also increase. Uh, Costs would also decline as there would be fewer rejects and less rework. By decreasing the defect rate, customer satisfaction would increase, causing in turn an increase in market share. Mandy also felt that the following activities were needed to help ensure the success of the revenue growth and cost reduction strategy. Improve the soldering capabilities by sending employees on outside course, redesign the insertion process to eliminate some of the common mistakes and improve the procurement process by selecting suppliers that provide higher quality circuit boards. So number one, state the revenue growth and cost reduction strategy using a series of cause and effect relationships expressed as if then statements and illustrate the strategy using a strategy map and explain how the revenue growth strategy can be tested. In your explanation, discuss the role of lead and lag measures, targets, and double loop feedback. So in here, number 13, we have up to question number 3. So for problem number 13, if employees are trained to improve their soldering capabilities, the manufacturing process is redesigned and the right suppliers are selected, then the number of defective units produced will decrease. If the number of defective units produced decreases, then customer satisfaction will increase and cost will decrease. If customer satisfaction increases, then market share will increase. If market share increases, then sales will increase. If sales increase and cost decrease, then profits will increase. So now we have this strategy map for financial. Cost decrease, profits increase. Then we have for a market share increases, will increase sales, customer satisfaction, market share increases, defects decrease, redesign process, and supplier selection, soldering, training, learning, and growth. So for requirements, number 2 and here number 3, each consequence of the if-then sequence, the then outcome can be tested to see if the outcome is as expected. For example, if workers are trained to solder better, do defects actually decrease? If defects decrease, do we observe an increase in customer satisfaction? Does market share then increase? Thus, the consequences are observable, but only if they are measured. Of course, it should be mentioned that not only outcomes must be measured, but also those factors that lead to the outcomes. Okay. So we have now, if they are measured, of course, it should be mentioned that not only outcomes must be measured, but also those factors that lead to the outcomes, the performance drivers. Was the process redesigned? How many hours of training are needed? And where they provided? Where suppliers selected so that now have a higher quality circuit board. Note also that the number of defects acts as both a lag measure and a lead measure. First, it measures the outcome for training, supplier selection, and process redesign. Second, it also drives customer satisfaction, which must be measured by surveys and cost reduction. We have now the targets indicate the amount of performance driver input and the improvement expected. For example, the company may budget 100 hours of soldering training, 300 hours of supplier evaluation, and two new process strategies, two new process strategies, and two new process changes, and then expect a 50% reduction in the number of defects, the outcome. Suppose that the outcome is only a 10% reduction in defects. Comparing the 50% to the 10% reduction achieved reveals a problem. Double loop feedback provides information reduction. Okay. So we have now double feedback provides information regarding both the validity of the strategy and the effectiveness of implementation. If the targeted levels were not achieved for the performance drivers, then it is possible that the outcome was not achieved because of an implementation problem. If, however, the targeted levels of the performance drivers were achieved, then the problem could lie with the strategy itself. Maybe training to solder better has little to do with reducing defects. It may not be as much of a problem as thought. So we have now it may not be as much of a problem as thought, or perhaps the current suppliers are not really as a root cause for the production of defects. Now we have problem 14 with three requirements. So we have now number one is review here for number 14. What are the requirements of number 14 for here? Refer to exercise 13. Suppose that Mandy communicates the following weights to her CEO. Perspective, financial 40, customer 20, plus is 20, learning and growth 20. financial objectives, profits 50, revenues 25, cost 25. And customer objectives, customer satisfaction 60, market share 40. Process objectives, defects decrease 40%, supplier selection 30%, and redesigning their cost. Now we have to use again the data in problem. Okay, so we have suppose that Mandy communicates. Okay, so we have now requirement number 1, potential bonus for each perspective and objective. So bonuses by perspective, financial, customer, process, and learning and growth. So we have the total of 100,000 by objectives. So we have financial for profits, for revenues. So we have different figures. Take note that you have included here in the case of by perspective, you have included financial, customer, process, and learning and growth. By objective, included are financial, profits, revenues, and cost. Customer with customer satisfaction. So by objective, no? Then customer satisfaction, markets, oh, 50, okay. So with process, okay. So we have now requirement number 2. Measures must be developed for its objective of each perspective. Next, targeted values for each measure are set to encourage attention for each objective. A company might require that the minimum value for each objective be met before any bonus is awarded. So we have now the bonuses are then assigned based on the targeted. So we have now the bonuses are then assigned based on the percentage of the target achieved above the minimum value. Involving employees and identifying the strategic objectives and measures will help the employee internalize them. Non-financial rewards such as public recognition of achievements, and so we have okay. So we have these problems that I have assigned up to number 14. So that's all for the problems, and but your coming exam, that's the final exam, will be on May 26, 7 to 12. You will take 35 points of true or false, 35 points of multiple choice theory, and 40 items of multiple choice problems. That will be times 2. So we have the budgeting as a topic from the book of Van der Beek. Then we have chapters 1, 2, 3, no? In the book of Hansen and Mowen. We have chapters 1, 2, 3, and then we have 6, 7, and 9. Now, these are the chapters involved in the test. So, I would like to extend my good luck statement to all of you, and may God bless you, especially in taking the final examination. So God bless everyone.